In the mosaic of American history, few figures have captured the global imagination as profoundly as Michelle Obama. Born on the south side of Chicago, she rose from humble beginnings to the pinnacle of public life, exerting influence that transcended the traditional boundaries of the First Lady of the United States. Michelle Obama's journey from the tightly knit neighborhoods of Chicago to the hallowed halls of Princeton and Harvard Law, and ultimately to the White House, is emblematic not only of personal triumph but also of unwavering dedication to service, family and self-actualization. This book, Michelle Obama, Devenir Being Plus Queen Premier Dame, seeks to illuminate the transformative path trodden by Michelle Obama, a life defined by resilience, purpose, and the continual quest to become more. Through meticulously crafted chapters, this narrative delves into her formative years in Chicago, underpinned by strong familial bonds and instilled values that would gird her against adversity and prejudice. We witness how the rigors of elite education challenged her sense of belonging, yet ultimately honed her intellectual rigor and moral resolve. Michelle Obama's voice, once tentative amidst the cacophony of dominant opinions, gradually emerged as a beacon for the marginalized and unheard. Her personal story, entwined with the historic rise of Barack Obama, reveals the dynamic interplay between partnership and individual ambition, marriage and motherhood, and private and public life. Before stepping into global prominence, Michelle carved her own career an ascent marked by integrity, strategic insight, and a ceaseless commitment to empower others. Even as she entered the political sphere, Michelle Obama remained steadfast in her identity, skillfully navigating the tumult of expectations and scrutiny that defined her tenure as First Lady. Her advocacy for health, education, and women's rights not only reshaped public perception but also enriched the societal landscape, making her legacy one that resonates far beyond political boundaries. In this book, each chapter is designed to provide readers with an intimate and comprehensive view of Michelle Obama's evolutionary journey that exemplifies the power of authenticity and courage. This is a celebration of becoming, a biography of transformation, leadership, and hope. Chapter 1. Roots on the South Side, Childhood in Chicago. Michelle Obama's story begins amidst the sturdy, stoic streets of Chicago's South Side, a region famed not only for its cultural vitality, but also its enduring struggles with economic disparity. Born Michelle Lavon Robinson in 1964, she was the second child of Fraser and Marion Robinson, a family whose unwavering values provided an unshakable foundation. Their lived experience reflected the broader tapestry of African American life, marked by perseverance, pride, and a relentless pursuit of opportunity in the face of systemic challenges. Michelle's earliest memories revolve around the modest apartment on Euclid Avenue that she shared with her parents and older brother Craig. The home was small and often noisy, with thin walls and close quarters fostering an atmosphere of familial intimacy. Fraser Robinson, despite being diagnosed with multiple sclerosis and facing mobility restrictions, worked tirelessly as a city pump operator. His commitment to his work and family provided daily demonstrations of perseverance and integrity, traits that Michelle would carry forward throughout her life. Marion, her mother, was equally foundational, imparting an unwavering belief in education, honesty, and self-respect. Growing up in a predominantly black community, Michelle quickly observed the social and racial dynamics that shaped her environment. Although their financial means were limited, the Robinsons prioritized education and self-improvement. Michelle's neighborhood brimmed with stories of neighbors striving through nursing shifts, fathers working night jobs, and children clutching library books as golden tickets to a better future. Storytelling, often exchanged in the warmth of their kitchen or the hum of community gatherings, granted her a profound appreciation for the power of narrative and identity. Michelle was a precocious, curious child. Her penchant for reading encouraged by weekly trips to the local library, where she devoured books ranging from fairy tales to biographies. Early on, she developed a keen sensitivity to fairness and justice, shaped by her parents' lessons and the subtle inequities she witnessed. Fraser and Marion demanded excellence, not perfection, but a thoughtful, committed pursuit of one's best self, regardless of circumstance. School became an early proving ground for Michelle. Despite racial segregation and underfunded institutions, her parents sought out rigorous academic programs and encouraged both Michelle and Craig to distinguish themselves. At Bryn Mawr Elementary, Michelle's teachers quickly recognized her aptitude, assigning her advanced coursework and instilling the expectation that intellectual rigor would be her ticket out of limitation. She navigated social challenges with poise, sometimes feeling the sting of exclusion, yet never allowing it to diminish her ambition. The South Side provided more than challenges. It was a crucible for character. Block parties, church gatherings, and neighborhood celebrations imbued young Michelle with a sense of belonging and collective uplift. She learned to see strength in community, to grasp the significance of shared struggle, and to nurture empathy for those whose circumstances were even less forgiving. As Michelle grew into adolescence, the subtle balancing act between pride and aspiration became pronounced. She was acutely aware that to fulfill her potential, she would need to traverse broader worlds, integrate into spheres that often felt unwelcoming, where the faces and expectations differed markedly from those she'd known. The Robinsons supported her every step, celebrating her victories and helping her confront inevitable setbacks with grace. By the time she was ready for high school, Michelle already embodied the principles of diligence, humility, and hope. Her story, set against the rich yet challenged landscape of the South Side, was not one of inevitability but of possibility, a testament to the transformative power of roots, community, and family. This foundation would prove indispensable as she moved toward the world beyond Chicago, armed with the lessons of her childhood and the fierce belief that she was, indeed, capable of becoming much more. Chapter 2: Family, Values, and Early Strength. Michelle Obama's upbringing was deeply interwoven with the enduring threads of family unity and core values, a tapestry knit together by love, discipline, and resilience. The Robinson household was, above all, a nurturing environment where every member's ambitions and struggles were not only acknowledged but actively supported. The guiding principles of Michelle's life found their first expression within her home. Fraser and Marion's parenting style was a dynamic blend of warmth and firmness. Fraser, despite physical limitations, epitomized perseverance. He refused to be defined or constrained by his illness, setting a living example of fortitude for his children. Marion, a quiet force, sculpted the emotional landscape of her family, encouraging independence while fostering close ties. She provided the space for Michelle and Craig to voice their opinions, to explore their curiosities, and, critically, to learn from their failures. Family meals were sacrosanct, moments when the Robinsons would convene to discuss their days and share guidance. Laughter and debate flowed freely at the dinner table, reinforcing the expectation that each child's perspective was valuable. Fraser's stories were often laced with humor or gentle lessons, while Marion's insight was less overt but no less profound. "Do not ever diminish who you are," she would advise, urging her children to stand firm in their identity. Michelle's bond with her brother Craig was foundational, marked by both rivalry and unwavering mutual support. They navigated academic competitions with competitive zeal, but also cheered one another's victories, establishing a model of familial collaboration that would echo throughout Michelle's later relationships. Craig's athletic prowess was matched by Michelle's intellectual determination, and each took pride in the other's achievements. Religion played a subtle but significant role in shaping Michelle's early worldview. Church attendance reinforced a sense of community and moral purpose, serving as a constant reminder of the greater good. The teachings of faith were never dogmatic, but rather motivated service, humility, and empathy, qualities that would later define Michelle's approach to leadership. The Robinsons were unafraid to confront the realities of their social environment. They spoke candidly about issues of race and inequality, preparing Michelle to tackle prejudices without fear or self-doubt. Fraser's stories about workplace obstacles and Marion's reflections on overcoming societal boundaries instilled a sense that adversity was best met with courage, not resignation. Michelle's strength blossomed through these early lessons in adversity and opportunity. Her parents stressed education as a pathway to freedom, yet always complemented instruction with compassion. She learned that academic success was hollow without kindness, and that resilience required both internal and external support. Although the world outside their apartment could be antagonistic, the Robinson family was a sanctuary anchoring Michelle, while propelling her forward. The earliest tests of Michelle's independence arose during formative school experiences. Group projects and class presentations demanded leadership and adaptability, challenging her to balance ambition with collaboration. Friends came and went, but the enduring presence of her family lent her confidence in unfamiliar settings. Fraser and Marian's encouragement protected Michelle from internalizing failure, framing setbacks as information rather than condemnation. Ultimately, the values cultivated in Michelle's early environment became her armor and her compass. Integrity, empathy, tenacity, these traits, first forged at the kitchen table, would become the underpinnings of her public persona. The Robinsons' insistence on self-respect and service infused Michelle's ambitions with purpose, setting her on a path not merely to success, but to significance. In the security of family, she found strength. In its lessons, she discovered the tools to become more than circumstance ever promised. Chapter 3: Education as a Weapon, Princeton and Harvard Law. With the South Side's lessons inscribed in her character, Michelle Obama embarked on one of the most defining journeys of her life: higher education. The pursuit was not merely academic, it was an act of self-assertion, a demonstration that intellect and ambition could transcend the invisible boundaries of race, gender, and class. Michelle's path to Princeton University was marked by doubt and determination. Guidance counselors warned that her aspiration might be too grand, subtly signaling that elite institutions were reserved for others. But the Robinson family's faith was unwavering, and Michelle resolved to prove that her roots were compatible with academic excellence. The transition to Princeton was both exhilarating and disorienting. Michelle found herself among peers whose backgrounds were often worlds apart. Students from privileged families, educated in elite preparatory schools, whose sense of entitlement contrasted starkly with her own humility and drive. Cultural and social isolation were frequent companions. She grappled with imposter syndrome, questioning her place in spaces where she was one of the few African American women. Yet adversity bred resilience. Michelle immersed herself in her studies, focusing on sociology and African American studies. The curriculum validated her experiences, offering intellectual tools to analyze the forces that shaped her life and community. Her senior thesis, which examined the intersection of race and education, bore witness to her commitment to social justice and transformation. Extracurricular activities at Princeton served as developmental crucibles. Michelle joined organizations that promoted diversity, equity, and student advocacy. She became active in the Third World Center, a hub for minority students, where she cultivated leadership skills and fostered networks of support. In these settings, her voice grew stronger. Her purpose: clearer education was not just personal advancement, but a mechanism to empower others. Graduating from Princeton with honors was a source of immense pride. But Michelle's ambition demanded further ascent. Harvard Law School beckoned, presenting new challenges and opportunities. The intellectual rigor was only matched by the complexity of navigating another predominantly white, male institution. Once again, Michelle was called to assert her identity. Fighting stereotypes while advancing academically. At Harvard, Michelle refined her advocacy, participating in protests and debates that focused on increasing the representation of minority students and faculty. Her experience in moot court, internships, and public interest law deepened her commitment to service and equity. She was no longer just a student. She was becoming an advocate, an organizer, a future leader. Throughout these years, Michelle balanced the tension between assimilation and authenticity. She learned to embrace her unique perspective, refusing to soften her identity for acceptance. The discipline and intellectual rigor required at Princeton and Harvard Law would become vital tools in her later career, enabling her to command respect, challenge injustice, and inspire change wherever her work took her. Michelle's educational journey was a testament to both her brilliance and her tenacity. Education indeed became her weapon against limitation, discrimination, and expectation. In lecture halls and libraries, in late-night study groups and heated campus debates, she fortified her sense of possibility. The Ivy League mosaic that once seemed impenetrable ultimately catalyzed her emergence as a powerful agent of transformation and outcome that would reverberate far beyond campus walls. Chapter 4. Finding her voice in a competitive world. Emerging from the crucible of elite education, Michelle Obama faced the daunting challenge of translating her academic strengths into professional impact. The world beyond university walls was fiercely competitive, demanding not only intellect but also the ability to communicate, lead, and inspire across diverse contexts. Michelle's initial forays into the corporate and non-profit realms were marked by careful deliberation. She began her career at the prestigious Sidley and Austin law firm in Chicago, specializing in intellectual property law. The position promised stability and status, yet Michelle felt an underlying unease. Her passion for service and advocacy seemed stifled by the rigors and constraints of legal practice. Still, the experience proved invaluable. Michelle learned the intricacies of legal argumentation, strategy, professionalism. She honed her capacity for analytical thinking and negotiation, skills that would prove indispensable in later public endeavors. Yet the competitive atmosphere marked by long hours and high expectations also underscored the importance of personal fulfillment and authentic aspiration. Michelle's search for purpose led her to pivotal career transitions. Recognizing that her true calling lay in service and community impact, she left Sidley and Austin to pursue roles that aligned with her values. First, as assistant to the mayor of Chicago, and later as assistant commissioner for planning and development, she sharpened her expertise in public administration and community development. These roles thrust her into complex negotiations, requiring not just intellect, but genuine empathy. In these professional settings, Michelle gradually found her public voice. She became adept at balancing assertiveness with collaboration, navigating bureaucratic obstacles while advocating for meaningful change. Her work often focused on urban renewal and youth development, tackling issues that mirrored her own upbringing on the South Side. Michelle's early career was also defined by encounters with discrimination and bias. Whether overt or subtle, she learned to address these challenges head-on, employing both strategic wit and moral clarity. The experiences shaped her understanding of systemic injustice, cementing her commitment to addressing inequality not only through rhetoric but through action. As she advanced, mentoring became a central theme in Michelle's work. She invested in supporting young people, especially minority students, and women through outreach programs and educational initiatives. Her ability to listen, counsel, and inspire ensured that her voice resonated not just in boardrooms but in classrooms and community centers. Michelle's journey to finding her voice was neither linear nor effortless. It was a process marked by self-reflection and courageous decisions. She learned to assert her opinions, to protect her vision against compromise, and to balance ambition with empathy. By continually seeking environments where her talents matched her values, Michelle built a legacy of integrity and purpose. This period of professional growth would serve as crucial preparation for her future roles, most importantly, those that demanded public visibility and influence. The competitive world had not diminished Michelle Obama's drive. Rather, it had refined her capacity to adapt, speak truth to power, and inspire collective action. In asserting her voice, Michelle forged a path that would ultimately transcend workplace boundaries and touch lives on a national and global scale. Chapter 5. Love, Partnership, and Purpose. Meeting Barack Obama. Michelle Obama's life was indelibly transformed when fate brought her together with Barack Obama. Their encounter, initially professional, quickly blossomed into a mutual admiration that transcended formal boundaries and redefined notions of partnership. Michelle met Barack during her tenure at Sidley and Austin, where she was assigned the role of mentor to the promising law intern. Barack's intellect and charisma were immediately apparent, His contemplative nature and principled ambition resonated with Michelle's own values. Their conversations, which began as routine mentorship, soon expanded into deep discussions about social change, justice, and personal aspiration. The dynamic between Michelle and Baruch was marked by profound respect and complementarity. Where Baruch projected vision and hope, Michelle anchored their dreams in practicality and discipline. Their backgrounds, though different, Baruch's multinational upbringing contrasted with Michelle's rootedness in the South Side, made their partnership both challenging and enriching. Their initial courtship was not without its obstacles. Michelle harbored reservations about dating a colleague, concerned about professional impropriety and the implications for her career. Yet Baruch's sincerity, empathy, and unwavering support gradually overcame her hesitations. Their early dates were marked by candid conversations, intellectual sparring, and shared laughter, a foundation for trust and enduring affection. As their relationship deepened, Michelle and Baruch confronted cultural and personal expectations around love and partnership. Both prioritized family and community. Both believed in service and ambition. Their union was underpinned by a mutual recognition that individual growth should never come at the expense of shared purpose. Marriage followed, bringing with it new complexities and strengths. Together, Michelle and Baruch navigated the dual demands of professional advancement and family building. Their capacity for open communication and respect allowed them to weather the pressures of public scrutiny and personal sacrifice. Michelle, in particular, brought discipline and structure to their domestic life. Her insistence on stability and planning balanced Baruch's visionary approach, creating a supportive environment for their children, Molia and Sasha. The couple's shared commitment to fostering love, honesty, and self-respect in their daughters reflected the values instilled by their own families. Partnership with Baruch also expanded Michelle's sphere of influence. She became an integral advisor, sounding board, and strategist as Baruch pursued political ambitions. Her insights, often rooted in lived experiences and practical wisdom, shaped policy considerations and communication strategies, even as she maintained her own professional identity. Through the challenges of public life, Michelle and Baruch's partnership evolved into a model of unity, cooperation, and enduring love. Their relationship was not immune to tension, yet their mutual respect and shared purpose fortified them against adversity. Michelle's ability to articulate her own needs, dreams, and boundaries ensured that the partnership was not one of subordination, but of empowerment. Meeting and marrying Barack Obama marked a pivot in Michelle's journey, illuminating the transformative power of partnership founded on equality and shared vision. The narrative of their love, woven with purpose and resilience, would become central to the legacy they built together. Chapter 6: Balancing Ambition, Marriage, and Motherhood. Navigating the intersection of ambition, marriage, and motherhood, Michelle Obama confronted perhaps the most intricate balancing act of her adult life. Her trajectory, both personal and professional, was shaped by an unwavering commitment to nurturing her family while never forsaking her own dreams and contributions. The early years of marriage brought new routines and responsibilities. As Baruch's political career accelerated from state legislator to senator and, eventually, presidential candidate, Michelle was compelled to reconfigure her priorities. The demands of public service and the frequent absence of her husband necessitated resilience and flexibility, especially as she became the central anchor for their daughters. Motherhood introduced profound joys and profound challenges. Michelle's determination to provide stability, warmth, and structure for Molia and Sasha was unwavering. She instituted routines, regular bedtimes, family meals, and educational pursuits to ensure that their home remained a sanctuary. Amid the tumult of political life, her approach to parenting mirrored the values of her own upbringing: discipline and love, expectation and support. Professionally, Michelle refused to relinquish her identity. She continued to pursue roles that aligned with her principles, holding positions as executive director for community affairs at the University of Chicago hospitals, among others. Work provided not only economic stability but a sense of purpose, independent of her husband's ambitions. The dual responsibilities of parenting and profession frequently converged. Michelle mastered the art of compartmentalization, dedicating unwavering attention to her daughters while remaining an effective leader and advocate. This balancing act required negotiation not only with herself, but with Barack, whose career often demanded public visibility and unpredictable hours. Michelle's ability to articulate her own needs became critical. She resisted the silent sacrifices often expected of political spouses, openly communicating her boundaries and expectations. This candid approach enriched her marriage, fostering mutual support and understanding even during periods of strain. The tension between ambition and domesticity was not without its emotional cost. Michelle experienced moments of fatigue, isolation, and self-doubt. Yet her internal compass, rooted in early lessons of resilience and self-worth, kept her grounded. She sought support networks including her mother, Marion, who often helped care for the girls, recognizing that collective effort was essential to sustaining both family and career. Michelle's choices as a wife and mother were fundamentally guided by her belief in the transformative power of example. She aspired to show her daughters and the broader community that women could be both nurturing and ambitious, both caregivers and leaders. Every sacrifice was measured against the imperative to inspire, empower, and uplift. Balancing these competing demands, Michelle Obama redefined the modern woman's paradigm. Her journey underscores the possibility of success without abandoning oneself, of finding meaning without renouncing joy. In mastering the art of balance, she modeled for millions the courage to assert both family and ambition as complementary, rather than conflicting aspiration. Chapter 7. Life before the White House. Michelle Laverne Robinson was born on January 17, 1964, into a working-class family on Chicago's South Side, an environment that would indelibly shape her worldview. Growing up in the blue-collar precincts of Chicago, Michelle experienced firsthand the realities of economic hardship and racial injustice, but also the strength that emerges from family unity and community spirit. Her parents, Fraser and Marion Robinson, instilled in her the values of diligence, education, and self-respect, emphasizing that no obstacle was insurmountable with effort and resilience. Fraser Robinson, her father, worked as a city pump operator and battled multiple sclerosis throughout Michelle's formative years. Despite his illness, Fraser rarely missed a day of work and maintained an unwavering optimism, demonstrating to his children a relentless work ethic and a commitment to integrity. Marion Robinson, her mother, managed the household and emphasized the importance of critical thinking and education in daily life. Her steady guidance and belief in her children's potential encouraged Michelle to cultivate an intellectual curiosity and a robust sense of self. Michelle excelled academically from a young age, benefiting from her parents' encouragement and the discipline they instilled. She attended Whitney Young Magnet High School, a respected public school known for nurturing talented students. The commute across the city was taxing, yet it also exposed her to diverse perspectives, reinforcing her awareness of class and racial disparities. Within the halls of Whitney Young, Michelle encountered both challenge and affirmation. Her success would become a precursor to her entry into Princeton University, a significant achievement not only for herself, but for her family and community. At Princeton, Michelle confronted the realities of being one of the few black women on campus, a stark cultural shift from her Chicago roots. The absence of familiar faces and casual prejudices she encountered demanded emotional fortitude. Despite feelings of isolation and self-doubt, she thrived academically, double majoring in sociology and African American studies. While actively seeking communities of support, the rigor of Princeton's academic environment prepared her not only intellectually, but also emotionally for the adversities that lay ahead. After graduating from Princeton, Michelle pursued a law degree at Harvard Law School. Her time there cemented her commitment to social justice and advocacy, as she immersed herself in projects serving underprivileged populations. It was at a Chicago law firm, Sidley Austin, where she would meet Barack Obama, beginning a partnership that, over time, would challenge and expand her concept of self. Michelle's early career reflected her growing dissatisfaction with corporate law, and a yearning to have a direct impact on communities, leading her to roles in public service, non-profit organizations, and the University of Chicago. Through these transformative years, Michelle forged a personal identity grounded in compassion, determination, and ethical leadership. Her story before the White House is not merely one of professional or academic accomplishment, but of a young woman actively confronting structural inequalities while remaining steadfastly true to her values. The crucible of her early life provided her with both the vision and the strength to later become an influential national figure, one who would redefine what it means to serve, lead, and inspire. Chapter 8: Entering Politics. Without losing identity, Michelle Obama's entry into the political arena marked the beginning of a complex journey, one where she was constantly negotiating between public perception and personal authenticity. As Barack Obama's political ambitions grew following his time as a community organizer and law professor, Michelle faced a crossroads. Would she adopt the traditional role of a supportive spouse, or could she navigate politics without compromising her individuality? Michelle's reluctance to embrace politics was rooted in a deep skepticism about the political process and its demands on family life. Nevertheless, she recognized the transformative potential her husband's public service offered, and she committed to supporting his vision while maintaining her own aspiration. Throughout the intense periods of Barack's campaigns for the Illinois State Senate, then for the United States Senate, and eventually the presidency, Michelle prioritized her own identity and career. She continued her work at the University of Chicago hospitals, focusing on community outreach and health initiatives, underscoring that her life was not merely an adjunct to her husband's ambitions. As scrutiny intensified, Michelle became the subject of media attention, often facing reductive stereotypes and unfair criticism. Her image was shaped at times by narratives that sought to minimize her voice and contributions. Michelle's response was to double down on authenticity. She spoke candidly about her background, her experiences as a working mother, and the challenges of balancing professional and family obligations. Her candor resonated with many Americans who saw her as relatable and genuine, distilling complex issues into resonant, personal terms. Michelle's involvement in politics was not limited to public appearances or ceremonial duties. She became an active participant in policy discussions, campaign strategy, and community engagement. Whether appearing at town halls or giving keynote speeches, Michelle demonstrated an unwavering commitment to education, health, and opportunity issues that reflected her own priorities. She founded programs aimed at supporting military families and encouraged public service among young people, establishing herself as a proactive advocate rather than a passive figure. Even as she navigated the fraught terrain of political life, Michelle maintained a strong sense of self, refusing to be defined exclusively by her husband's career or by the constraints of public expectation. She found strength in her relationships with her family, lifelong friends, and professional peers, and routinely credited her support system for her resilience. Michelle's approach was characterized by balance and boundary setting, often choosing to shield her daughters from the most aggressive aspects of public life, and ensuring that her family's well-being remained central. Her journey through politics underscores a critical lesson. Identity must be actively safeguarded amidst external pressures. Michelle's experience reveals that women, and especially women of color, can participate in public life while affirming the entirety of their experiences, values, and ambitions. Through her choices and example, Michelle Obama illuminated a path for others who wish to engage in politics without sacrificing their authenticity, demonstrating that true leadership arises not from conformity, but from the courage to remain true to oneself. Chapter 9: Campaign Life and Public Scrutiny. The transition from private citizen to prominent political spouse catapulted Michelle Obama into an unrelenting spotlight where every word and gesture was scrutinized, analyzed, and occasionally misrepresented. During Barack Obama's presidential campaign, Michelle became both a significant asset to the campaign and a lightning rod for controversy, a phenomenon emerging from the intersection of race, gender, and power in American politics. Michelle's involvement in the campaign was exhaustive and strategic. She traversed the country, delivering speeches, participating in town hall events, and engaging with voters on deeply personal issues. Her authenticity, warmth, and relatability developed strong connections with audiences, transforming her from an unknown figure into a national presence. She spoke candidly about parenting, work-life balance, and the values that had shaped her own upbringing, humanizing the image of the candidate's family and galvanizing support among diverse groups. However, the campaign trail was fraught with challenges unique to Michelle's profile. Media coverage was often ambivalent. While many praised her intelligence and eloquence, others projected negative stereotypes, scrutinizing everything from her tone to her fashion choices. Some media outlets depicted her as angry or unpatriotic, following selective editing of her speeches, resulting in public debate over her intentions and character. The heightened scrutiny was an affront not only to her dignity, but also to the broader struggle of women, particularly Black women in the public sphere. Michelle responded to these pressures by refining her public persona without sacrificing authenticity. She became adept at addressing criticism, sometimes directly, often with poise and restraint, demonstrating emotional intelligence and resilience. Her team carefully managed her schedule and media appearances, balancing transparency with privacy. The tension between openness and self-protection was navigated with careful intention, and Michelle's consistent messaging emphasized unity, hope, and the importance of community engagement. Family life was also deeply affected during this period. The Obamas shielded their daughters, Moria and Sasha, from the most invasive elements of media attention, striving to maintain a semblance of normalcy amidst the extraordinary demands of campaign life. Michelle's ability to balance her roles as wife, mother, professional, and public figure underscored her resourcefulness and dedication to her family's well-being. Beyond personal adversity, Michelle leveraged her platform to articulate issues often overlooked in campaign discourse, such as child nutrition, educational access, and military family support. Her contributions shifted perceptions about the role a candidate's spouse could play, making her a key figure in shaping campaign strategy and public engagement. The crucible of campaign life subjected Michelle Obama to immense public scrutiny and challenge, but also provided her with the opportunity to demonstrate resilience, leadership, and authenticity. She emerged from the campaign not diminished by criticism, but strengthened, ready to redefine the possibilities and responsibilities of the role she was poised to assume as First Lady. Chapter 10. Becoming First Lady of the United States. The inauguration of Barack Obama as the 44th President of the United States signaled a historical shift, not only in American politics but in the composition and visibility of the nation's first family. Michelle Obama's ascension to the role of First Lady placed her at the epicenter of symbolic, ceremonial, and substantial influence, inviting both admiration and heightened expectation. The nation looked to her not only as the president's wife, but as a public figure, forged in the crucible of adversity, intellect, and grace. From the outset, Michelle was resolute in her commitment to grounding the family's life amid the grandeur of the White House. She prioritized settling her daughters into their new home and routines, insisting that their education and personal growth remain paramount. She would later describe her role as mom-in-chief, underscoring her belief that family stability was essential, even as the demands and luxuries of White House life beckoned. As First Lady, Michelle confronted the dual imperative of maintaining tradition and pioneering meaningful progress. Traditionally, the role had been defined by ceremonial duties, hosting events, promoting social causes, and supporting the president's administration. However, Michelle envisioned a broader platform, one through which she could drive initiatives aligned with her values of education, health, and service. This vision engendered both excitement and caution. While some welcomed her proactive approach, others questioned departures from convention. Michelle's early efforts focused on opening the White House to a broader public, inviting students, military families, and community leaders to participate in educational and cultural activities, thereby demystifying the institution and rendering it accessible Her public speeches embraced themes of hope, service, and resilience, often drawing upon her own experiences to connect with audiences. "We live in a world where our differences are our strength," she often asserted, encouraging civic engagement and cultural appreciation. The visibility of the First Lady's position brought with it increased scrutiny and pressure. Michelle's choices, ranging from her initiatives to her fashion, were subject to analysis, sometimes fostering admiration, other times attracting criticism. She handled controversy with dignity, acknowledging missteps and emphasizing the importance of learning and growth. Her strategic communications team worked to maintain transparency, foster trust, and amplify her advocacy efforts significantly. Michelle used her platform not solely for ceremonial purposes, but to address pressing national issues. She launched Let's Move, a comprehensive campaign to combat childhood obesity. She supported military families, and she advanced numerous educational initiatives. Her activism redefined the scope and impact of the role, inspiring both admiration and emulation. Throughout her tenure as First Lady, Michelle balanced tradition and innovation, family and public duty, personal authenticity and national expectation. Her approach set new benchmarks for the role, demonstrating that the power and influence of the First Lady could extend beyond symbolism to substantive, enduring change. Chapter 11, Redefining the Role of First Lady. Michelle Obama's tenure as First Lady was distinguished by her determination to move beyond the ceremonial and apolitical expectations that had traditionally confined the role. From her earliest days in the White House, she made it clear that her responsibilities wouldn't be limited to hosting state dinners or planning holiday festivities. Instead, they would be defined by proactive advocacy and meaningful engagement. Her efforts reimagined what it means to be First Lady in the modern era, setting a precedent for successors and inspiring millions. One of Michelle's core guiding beliefs was that the First Lady could embody both compassion and political relevance without crossing constitutional boundaries. She was resolute in her pursuit of issues that resonated deeply with the American public, especially those related to children, families, health, and education. This approach shifted expectations surrounding the role, making it clear that the First Lady could and should be a force for positive societal transformation. Michelle's redefinition of the role began with symbolic actions that carried tremendous cultural significance. She made the White House garden a national centerpiece for healthy living, engaging children and families to cultivate and harvest vegetables as part of her larger Let's Move campaign. These moments, while seemingly simple, underscored her belief in the power of example and forged connections with countless Americans who saw her commitment to wellness and sustainability reflected in these initiatives. The role of advocate was central to Michelle's approach. She traveled extensively throughout the United States to promote her initiatives, showing a willingness to listen and respond to community needs. Her advocacy was not limited to speeches. It involved practical partnerships with educators, health professionals, and local leaders. Michelle's interdisciplinary approach fostered coalitions that worked to improve school lunches, implement physical fitness programs, and support educational reform. Michelle also redefined the First Lady's influence over public perception. She leveraged her visibility to combat negative stereotypes and uplift marginalized voices, using her platform to champion diversity and inclusion. Her interviews, media appearances, and autobiographical reflections offered nuanced perspectives on race, gender, and identity in America, encouraging broader conversations about belonging and acceptance. Despite criticism from detractors who argued that she was overstepping the bounds of her office, Michelle's work demonstrated that the First Lady's role could be both politically relevant and deeply human. Her courage in addressing tough topics, confronting stereotypes, and advocating for justice resonated with audiences at home and abroad. Ultimately, Michelle Obama's redefinition of the First Lady's position was not about abandoning tradition, but transforming it, making space for activism, advocacy, and authenticity. Her legacy endures in the initiatives she launched, the conversations she inspired, and the example she set. The role of First Lady, thanks to Michelle's vision, is no longer simply ceremonial. It is a call to meaningful service and leadership. Chapter 12, Let's Move, Health, Children, and National Change. Among the many initiatives launched during Michelle Obama's tenure as First Lady, Let's Move stands out as one of the most transformative and enduring. Introduced in 2010, the campaign was an ambitious effort to address the growing epidemic of childhood obesity in America, laying the groundwork for a healthier generation and sparking change across individual, community, and national levels. Michelle's relentless advocacy and hands-on approach to Let's Move exemplified her commitment to health, children's well-being, and the potential for national progress through collective action. The origins of Let's Move were both personal and pragmatic. Michelle Obama had experienced the challenge of balancing healthy habits with the demands of daily life, especially as a working mother. Recognizing the alarming rise in childhood obesity along with its dire consequences for long-term health, she resolved to use her influence to coordinate a national response. Her background in community outreach and public health shaped the campaign's priorities: improving nutrition, increasing physical activity, fostering healthier school environments, and empowering families to make positive changes. Michelle mobilized an unprecedented coalition of stakeholders ranging from schools, physicians, and chefs to corporations, athletes, and policymakers. She championed legislative changes leading to the Healthy, Hunger-Free Kids Act, which improved nutritional standards for school meals and expanded access to healthy foods nationwide. The White House garden, both symbolic and practical, became a teaching tool for children about gardening, nutrition, and sustainability. The scope of Let's Move extended beyond policy into cultural change. Michelle actively participated in school visits, workout sessions, community events, and media campaigns, encouraging children to embrace physical activity and to make smarter food choices. Her approach was notable for its practicality and inclusivity, recognizing that long-term success required collaborative efforts and community engagement. She dispelled myths and addressed barriers that families faced: limited time, resources, and information, with empathy and actionable advice. Michelle's efforts were bolstered by partnerships with organizations such as the NFL, Disney, and Sesame Workshop, leveraging public and private resources to maximize reach. Let's Move inspired local coalitions to develop after-school programs, farmers markets, playgrounds, and educational workshops. The campaign's website offered families tools for tracking progress, setting goals, and accessing nutritional information. Transforming national attitudes toward health and fitness was no small feat. Michelle faced resistance from skeptics who doubted the campaign's impact to critics uncomfortable with her active role in public policy. Nonetheless, she persevered, using data-driven arguments and personal anecdotes to keep attention focused on results. By the end of her tenure, Let's Move had measurably reduced rates of childhood obesity in several communities and left a lasting blueprint for improving public health. Michelle Obama's Let's Move initiative transformed how Americans viewed nutrition, exercise, and childhood health. The campaign's legacy is evident in healthier school lunches, informed parents, and empowered children nationwide. Above all, Let's Move exemplifies Michelle's belief in the power of leadership, action, and community to drive meaningful change, an enduring testament to what can be achieved when one woman redefines the possibilities of her role. Chapter 13, Championing Education and Girls' Empowerment. One of Michelle Obama's most impactful legacies as First Lady is her tireless advocacy for education, particularly as a lever for empowering girls and young women both in America and around the world. Building upon her personal journey and deep resonance with the transformative power of learning, Michelle launched several initiatives designed to address educational disparities, foster ambition, and dismantle barriers to opportunity. Michelle's commitment to educational advancement was rooted in her lived experience. As a young black girl from Chicago's South Side, she understood firsthand the obstacles that so many students face: lack of resources, opportunity gaps, and low expectations. Her achievements at Princeton and Harvard reinforced her conviction that education is the most potent tool for personal and societal progress. From the earliest months of her tenure as First Lady, she made clear that championing education was a central priority. Among her signature programs was Reach Higher, a campaign encouraging students to pursue post-secondary education, whether college, vocational training, or other advanced credentials. Recognizing that many families lacked access to information and resources, Michelle worked directly with educators and guidance counselors to create mentorship opportunities, college visits, and informational workshops. Reach Higher sought not just to motivate students but to equip them with practical tools for success in higher education. Michelle's advocacy expanded globally with the Let Girls Learn initiative, launched in partnership with the Peace Corps and other organizations. Let Girls Learn addressed the pressing problem of gender-based educational barriers worldwide. Michelle visited countries across Africa, Asia, and Europe, speaking with girls who aspired to become doctors, engineers, and leaders despite societal constraints. The initiative directed funding and resources toward community-driven projects, building schools, training teachers, and developing leadership curricula for girls. Her commitment was not confined to policy but reflected in her public addresses, media campaigns, and personal interactions. Michelle often shared her own story of overcoming self-doubt and forging a path that defied expectations, offering hope and guidance to students wrestling with similar challenges. Her humility, candor, and insistence on showing up for young people inspired a generation of girls to believe in their power to change the world. Michelle confronted persistent stereotypes and prejudices related to gender, race, and socioeconomic status. Her discourse emphasized the intersectionality of these barriers, urging communities and leaders to address educational inequities holistically. She advocated for systemic change, more equitable funding for schools, diversified curricula, supportive learning environments, recognizing that individual ambition must be matched by institutional support. The impact of Michelle Obama's educational leadership can be measured in expanded opportunities, heightened aspiration, and enhanced visibility for girls and students nationwide. Her endorsement of mentorship and leadership development endures in countless organizations and initiatives, and her advocacy has rendered education not just a cause but a movement. Through her example and efforts, Michelle Obama transformed the narrative around girls' education and empowerment, ensuring that future generations are equipped to lead, excel, and inspire. Chapter 14: Grace Under Criticism and Stereotypes. Michelle Obama's ascendancy to the role of First Lady brought her face to face with unprecedented public scrutiny. Unlike many before her, she occupied the unique intersection of race and gender, making her both a symbol of progress and a target for relentless criticism. From the outset, her capacity for grace under pressure not only defined her tenure, but also became emblematic of her character, setting a new standard for public figures in similar positions. Amidst the dazzling celebrations that marked Barack Obama's inauguration in 2009, Michelle Obama was thrust into an unyielding spotlight. The expectations placed upon her were immense, colored by the legacy of former First Ladies and the historic implications of her husband's presidency. Yet, almost immediately, she became a focal point for commentary that veered from the respectful to the vitriolic. In her fashion choices, her physique, her spoken words and gestures, Michelle was subject to analysis that often betrayed not only gender biases, but also entrenched racial stereotypes. One particularly instructive moment occurred during the early days of the administration, when Michelle's sleeveless dresses became fodder for national debate. What might have been dismissed as a minor fashion critique escalated into a broader commentary on her womanhood, her appropriateness, and an unspoken challenge to the traditional image of the First Lady. Yet, instead of recoiling, Michelle wore her choices with unflappable dignity, famously declaring that she would never do anything that did not feel true to herself. Her style became a form of quiet resistance, empowering women to express themselves authentically, regardless of public opinion. Outside the realm of clothing, Michelle Obama's outspoken nature as an advocate brought additional scrutiny. Her early speeches, direct, impassioned, and unapologetic, were occasionally met with accusations of being too strong, too angry, or unpatriotic. These criticisms echoed long-standing stereotypes imposed upon black women. Nevertheless, Michelle navigated this terrain with remarkable poise. She recalibrated her public persona not to conform to expectations, but to enhance her message's clarity and impact, ultimately becoming one of the most popular first ladies in modern history. The media's treatment of Michelle Obama was often a reflection of broader societal challenges. Doubt was cast upon her educational qualifications, despite her Harvard law pedigree. Tabloids and pundits scrutinized her family background, sometimes resorting to disrespectful caricatures. Through it all, Michelle Obama responded with grace, not by ignoring criticism, but by transforming it into an opportunity for dialogue. She confronted the misconceptions directly, using interviews, public speeches, and community engagements to break down stereotypes, often reframing the narrative to focus on hope and progress. Her approach to criticism was also evident in her outreach strategies. Michelle purposefully engaged marginalized communities and youth, demonstrating that the power of representation could be harnessed for upliftment rather than division. Her resilience was not merely personal but strategic. She channeled her experiences to connect, encourage, and edify, showing how one could rise above the noise. At home, Michelle Obama modeled self-care and community support as ways to cope with external pressures, teaching her daughters and, by extension, other young women to shield their identities against the corrosive effects of unfounded criticism. She steered the public conversation toward substance over superficiality, emphasizing the importance of values and hard work. The enduring lesson from Michelle Obama's tenure as First Lady is that grace under criticism is not a passive trait. It is an active commitment to dignity, self-respect, and purposeful leadership. By refusing to be defined by stereotypes or diminished by detractors, Michelle Obama set an example that reverberates far beyond the halls of power. Her legacy in this regard is not just in surviving criticism, but in transforming it into a platform for change, representation, and solidarity, a guide for those who challenge the status quo and aspire to lead with elegance and efficacy. Chapter 15: Race, Womanhood, and Visibility. The presidency of Barack Obama marked an epoch in American history, with Michelle Obama at the forefront, representing far more than just a partner in governance. She was a symbol, a catalyst, and a torchbearer for the intersecting struggles of race and gender. In Michelle Obama, millions saw a reflection of their lived realities, their aspiration, and their challenges. Her visibility as a black woman holding one of the most recognized roles in the world was revolutionary, igniting conversations on race, womanhood, and the politics of representation. From her earliest days in the White House, Michelle's identity became a subject of national discourse, often analyzed more intensely than her initiatives or policies. The juxtaposition of her Southside Chicago roots against the opulence of the executive mansion provided fodder for both inspiration and scrutiny. While many celebrated this journey as a triumph, Michelle was acutely aware of the gaze that accompanied her every move, a gaze entrenched in historical stereotypes and racialized expectations. Visibility, for Michelle Obama, was a double-edged sword. On one hand, it enabled her to bring urgent attention to issues that affected marginalized communities. Her Let's Move campaign, focus on girls' education and advocacy for military families, were informed by a lived understanding of struggle and systemic barriers. On the other hand, her prominence exposed her to a barrage of prejudice, accusations of being aggressive or ungrateful, intrusions into her private life, and attempts to undermine her achievements. These instances were not isolated. They were part of the broader structure of intersectional oppression facing black women in America. Michelle's response was both strategic and heartfelt. She wielded her visibility to illuminate broader societal issues, often using her platform to narrate personal encounters with racism and sexism, whether sharing stories of childhood resilience or recounting moments of microaggressions. During her time at Princeton and Harvard, Michelle Obama's candor fostered empathy, and understanding among her audience. Her legacy as a visible black woman in the White House was constructed in part through deliberate choices. Michelle understood the power of imagery. Her public appearances often included children from all walks of life, underlining her commitment to diversity and inclusion. She was intentional about embracing and celebrating her natural hair and black heritage, defying expectations that she conformed to Eurocentric standards of beauty and decorum. Within the realm of womanhood, Michelle Obama strove to redefine strength and vulnerability. She frequently spoke about the importance of finding one's own voice, especially for women of color who often feel compelled to silence themselves in the face of societal expectations. Her speeches, most notably her powerful address at the Democratic National Convention in 2016 and her later reflections in Becoming, offered solace and inspiration to women navigating the complexities of identity in public spaces. In moments of difficulty, Michelle found solidarity with a global network of women, drawing on the lessons learned from her mother, Marian Robinson, and ancestors who endured incalculable hardships. She became a role model not only for black women, but for all women seeking validation, acceptance, and empowerment by making herself visible in her authenticity, displaying both her strengths and her struggles. Michelle Obama radically transformed the role of First Lady from ornamental to monumental. Her advocacy extended well beyond symbolism. She met with young girls in underprivileged areas worldwide, listened to their stories, and encouraged them to dream beyond perceived limitations. Michelle used her visibility to normalize diversity at the highest levels of leadership, inspiring a new generation to believe in the possibility of change. Ultimately, Michelle Obama's legacy in the sphere of race, womanhood, and visibility is founded on the courage to stand fully as herself, regardless of societal pressures. Her influence is measurable not just in policy successes, but in the hearts and minds of those who saw themselves mirrored in her journey. Michelle's time in the public eye has reaffirmed the power of representation, underscoring the importance of visibility, dignity, and compassion in the ongoing quest for equity and inclusion. Chapter 16: Power Through Empathy and Authenticity. Leadership in the 21st century demands more than authority. It calls for a unique combination of empathy and authenticity. Michelle Obama's tenure as First Lady illustrated this principle, demonstrating how genuine connection could catalyze social change and redefine the very nature of power. Rather than rely solely on conventional political maneuvering, Michelle harnessed emotional intelligence, deep listening, and transparent storytelling to forge bonds with people of varied backgrounds. Empathy was a cornerstone of Michelle's approach. Her initiatives were marked by an unwavering focus on individuals, the school children she encouraged to eat healthier, the military families she championed, the girls she urged to pursue education, and the communities she uplifted through advocacy. Michelle understood that lasting impact emerges not from dictating solutions, but from understanding needs. She frequently visited schools and community centers, engaging in honest dialogue, listening to stories of challenge and triumph, and offering advice that was both practical and heartfelt. This capacity for empathy was inseparable from Michelle's commitment to authenticity. Public figures often face the pressure to adopt curated images, but Michelle Obama insisted on presenting her true self, whether discussing her struggles with balancing motherhood and career, or sharing the emotional weight of publicly navigating her husband's presidency. Michelle embraced vulnerability as a source of strength. Her candor bridged gaps, making her relatable to citizens who often regarded public officials as distant and inaccessible. The Let's Move and Reach Higher initiatives demonstrated this duality. Michelle's outreach strategies were built on understanding and addressing the root causes of issues, such as childhood obesity and educational disparities. She collaborated with experts, engaged parents and teachers, and listened to the lived experiences of those affected. In doing so, she constructed policies and campaigns that resonated emotionally, motivating participation through compassion rather than compulsion. Michelle's authenticity was also evident in her public addresses. Her speeches were marked by personal anecdotes and reflections, reinforcing the message that leadership could be both grounding and transformative. For instance, in her 2016 Democratic National Convention speech, Michelle famously declared, "When they go low, we go high." This phrase embodied her philosophy, responding to adversity with integrity rather than retaliation, setting a standard for both her family and the nation. In private meetings and public events, Michelle often shared her doubts and fears, helping others see themselves in her journey. She spoke candidly about issues such as imposter syndrome and the weight of expectations, providing a blueprint for resilience. Her honest conversations with young women, minorities, and professionals fostered a sense of community and solidarity, teaching that strength arises from collective empathy and individual authenticity. Michelle Obama's power rested not on the privileges of her office, but on her ability to inspire trust and foster unity. This influence extended far beyond American borders. Global audiences responded to her messages on education and empowerment, translating her principles into action within their societies. Her travels to Africa, Europe, and Asia underscored the universality of empathy, showing that authentic leadership could transcend political and cultural divides. Through her example, Michelle Obama encouraged a reimagining of power, not as dominance, but as service, not as isolation, but as connection. Her legacy in this realm challenges future leaders to prioritize empathy and truth in their pursuits, recognizing that society flourishes when its leaders are both relatable and compassionate. Michelle's commitment to empathy and authenticity continues to resonate, guiding new generations in cultivating courage, kindness, and sincerity within their spheres of influence. Chapter 17. Life after the White House. As the Obama administration drew to a close in January 2017, Michelle Obama faced the most profound transition of her public life. Stepping away from the unique pressures and privileges of the White House could have signaled a retreat into private life. Instead, it marked the beginning of an energetic new chapter characterized by personal growth, reinvention, and expanded influence on a global scale. The adjustment to post-White House life was multifaceted. No longer tethered to the unending cycle of presidential obligations, Michelle dedicated herself to family, introspection, and causes she cherished. Yet, the choice to forge a public path was deliberate. Recognizing the enormous platform she had built, Michelle sought to leverage it for ongoing positive impact. One of the earliest glimpses into her new life came through public appearances and advocacy that persisted in priority areas such as education, girls' empowerment, and health. Michelle and Barack's establishment of the Obama Foundation provided a formal vehicle for their continued engagement in social justice and community development. Michelle's role in the foundation emphasized leadership training, mentorship, and the amplification of grassroots voices, aligning with her belief in nurturing future change makers. Michelle Obama also engaged in introspective reflection and personal exploration upon leaving the White House. Her well-publicized vacation adventures, interactions with family, and candid discussions about the relief of regaining privacy demonstrated an embrace of balance, a lesson underscored in her public messaging. In interviews, Michelle articulated the importance of reclaiming time for self-care, bonding with loved ones, and pursuing passions neglected during her tenure as First Lady. Her advocacy evolved in this new context. Free from the formalities of the executive office, Michelle was able to speak out on national and international issues with directness and urgency. She continued to address topics of race, gender inequality, and democracy, lending her voice to movements such as Black Lives Matter and global girls' education campaigns. A key avenue of post-White House engagement was her ventures into media and publishing. Michelle's memoir, Becoming, released in 2018, transformed her personal narrative into a universal message of hope and resilience. The book's phenomenal success attested not only to her popularity, but to the hunger for authentic stories of growth and perseverance. Through book tours, interviews, and public readings, Michelle connected with diverse audiences, sharing lessons learned from private and public trials. Michelle also forged a presence in entertainment media, contributing to documentaries, producing content, and collaborating with Netflix on educational and inspirational projects. These pursuits reflected her conviction that storytelling holds transformative power, particularly in shaping young minds. Philanthropy remained a central focus. Michelle Obama continued to support causes such as global education access, childhood nutrition, and mental wellness, leveraging her voice and resources to catalyze systemic change. Her initiatives emphasized partnership with local leaders and organizations, embodying the belief that sustainable progress is community-driven. Personal growth is defined in this chapter as well. Michelle embraced new roles: mentor, speaker, producer, entrepreneur, while remaining rooted in values cultivated during her years in public service. Her journey after the White House exemplifies adaptive leadership, the capacity to identify new challenges, pivot strategies, and deepen one's impact while maintaining authenticity. Michelle Obama's post-White House life stands as a testament to the possibilities that exist beyond official titles. Through reflection, renewal, and ambitious outreach, Michelle proved that influence need not wane with the closing of political chapters. Her continued evolution serves as inspiration for those who seek to extend their legacy of service, anchoring themselves in purpose and transformative action regardless of station. Chapter 18: Becoming an Author and Global Voice. Michelle Obama's transition from First Lady to influential author and global voice marked another distinct phase in her legacy. Her memoir, Becoming, released in November 2018, quickly became a cultural phenomenon, selling millions of copies and resonating across continents. This literary achievement was more than a personal milestone. It represented her evolution from figurehead to storyteller and thought leader for a new era. The process of writing Becoming was itself a journey of reflection, vulnerability, and honesty. Michelle committed to sharing the intricacies of her life, childhood struggles, academic challenges, moments of doubt, and the complexities of her marriage and public role. The memoir's narrative style, candid and relatable, invited readers into the nuanced realities of her ascent, illuminating the human dimensions often obscured by public offers. Becoming succeeded not only because of Michelle Obama's status, but because of its universality. Themes of identity, perseverance, love, and ambition transcended cultural and national boundaries. Readers from Africa to Asia, Europe to the Americas found echoes of their own stories in Michelle's journey. Her emphasis on continual growth shaped by resilience, self-discovery, and a refusal to be confined by external definitions provided guidance and hope for countless individuals. Michelle's book tours demonstrated her ability to command global attention. Auditorium events in major cities drew thousands of attendees, from young girls inspired by her advocacy to seasoned professionals seeking counsel on leadership and authenticity. Each interaction was marked by warmth, clarity, and humor, qualities that distinguished Michelle's public image as approachable yet formidable. Her roles extended into other forms of media as well. Podcasts, interviews, and curated social media campaigns enabled Michelle to amplify her messages, reach diverse communities, and shape conversations on issues of equity, leadership, and personal development. She navigated these platforms with the same openness that characterized her writing, blending anecdote with actionable insight. Michelle Obama's status as a global voice also materialized in her philanthropic and diplomatic ventures. She advocated internationally for the education of girls, partnering with organizations such as Girls' Opportunity Alliance and speaking at youth conferences and summits worldwide. Her efforts helped frame education not merely as policy, but as a moral and strategic imperative, underscoring its transformative power in shaping societies. Her literary journey further solidified Michelle Obama's place as an advocate for mental wellness and emotional health. Through Becoming and subsequent projects, she destigmatized conversations around anxiety, imposter syndrome, and self-worth, supporting campaigns and resources that address these challenges. The global acclaim for Michelle Obama's authorship reflects a hunger for authenticity and connection in leadership narratives. Through her writing and media presence, she models vulnerability and courage, demonstrating that the process of becoming is ongoing, rooted in self-reflection, purpose, and engagement with the world. Michelle's evolution into an author and global voice signals a new era for public figures, where storytelling and advocacy are intertwined, and personal growth becomes a tool for collective advancement. Becoming remains a beacon for those who seek to harness narrative power, build bridges of empathy, and lead with integrity in ever-expanding circles of influence. Chapter 19: Inspiring the Next Generation of Leaders. Michelle Obama's impact as a mentor and catalyst for leadership is among the most enduring aspects of her legacy. Recognizing that the future hinges on empowering young minds, Michelle has channeled her experience and visibility into transformative initiatives aimed at cultivating the next generation of leaders. Her philosophy is anchored in the belief that expanding opportunity and fostering self-belief are foundational to societal progress. Through the Reach Higher initiative, Michelle Obama directly confronted barriers that impede access to higher education. She visited schools, conducted workshops, and mobilized resources to assist students, particularly those from underrepresented communities, in navigating admissions, securing financial aid, and embracing academic ambition. Her approach differed from conventional top-down mentorship. She prioritized listening to youth and adapting to their realities, reinforcing their sense of agency. Michelle's mentorship style is hands-on and compassionate. She frequently engages young people in authentic conversations, addressing fears, aspiration, and the complexities of identity. Her stories of struggle and triumph offer reassurance without diminishing the hard work required for success. By acknowledging difficulties, whether economic hardship, social exclusion, or internal doubt, Michelle models resilience while providing practical guidance for overcoming obstacles. Global outreach is another hallmark of her legacy. Michelle travels internationally, most notably through the Girls' Opportunity Alliance, to champion education, leadership development, and inclusion. She partners with local organizations, visits classrooms in developing countries, and meets with grassroots leaders to exchange ideas and amplify local initiatives. Her efforts frame leadership not as a solitary pursuit, but as a collective endeavor sustained by community support. Michelle Obama understands that inspiring future leaders entails breaking down the myths of perfection and entitlement. She is candid about her journey, revealing failures and pivots that have shaped her path. This realism reassures young people that persistence, adaptability, and ethics matter more than flawless achievement. Media and publishing are other avenues through which Michelle influences emerging leaders. Her books, podcasts, and documentaries disseminate lessons on leadership, intersectionality, and empathy. These resources reach audiences far beyond traditional classrooms, democratizing access to transformational guidance. Michelle's legacy is also evident in her dedication to diversity. She encourages young women, minorities, and marginalized groups to challenge systemic barriers, believe in their worth, and claim their space in leadership roles. Her advocacy for equal opportunity is grounded in evidence-based strategies and personal testimony, ensuring that her influence is both meaningful and actionable. By cultivating mentorship, opening doors to education, and modeling authentic leadership, Michelle Obama continues to inspire those who will shape the world's future. Her vision for the next generation is underpinned by inclusivity, wisdom, and hope, guiding young leaders as they develop their potential and make indelible contributions to society. Chapter 20: Becoming More Than a Title. Michelle Obama's legacy. Michelle Obama's legacy, although most visible during her years as First Lady, is not defined by the ceremonial trappings of the role. Rather, her tenure marked a profound shift in how First Ladies are perceived, from passive supporters to active policy influencers, thought leaders, and cultural icons. Michelle Obama consciously rejected archaic limitations, reimagining the boundaries of responsibility attached to her public position. Her journey exemplifies the power of evolving identity, using the platform of First Lady not as an endpoint, but as a launching pad for broader impact. Central to her legacy is the redefinition of power and purpose. Michelle Obama brought social issues often relegated to the background into the foreground of national discourse. Her advocacy covered diverse realms, nutrition, education, military families, racial equity, and female empowerment. Initiatives such as Let's Move and Joining Forces demonstrated her ability to mobilize communities toward healthier, more supportive environments. She consistently approached public service as a dynamic practice where listening, learning, and adapting were as vital as leading. The Let's Move initiative, for example, revolutionized how childhood nutrition and exercise were discussed in America. Recognizing the epidemic of childhood obesity, Michelle Obama forged policymaker and private sector collaborations to increase access to healthy food and encourage physical activity. Through public gardens, educational campaigns, and legislative advocacy, she spurred a national movement that extended well beyond her years in the White House. This program exemplifies a pragmatic approach to activism. She spoke directly to families, schools, and communities, ensuring the solutions were accessible and relatable. Her legacy is equally shaped by her willingness to use personal narrative as a tool for social change. Becoming, her best-selling memoir offered an unguarded reflection on her struggles, triumphs, and lifelong pursuit of purpose. By sharing her story, Michelle Obama shattered stereotypes about race, class, and gender. Her openness about self-doubt, balancing motherhood and career, and navigating scrutiny set a new precedent for authenticity in public life. In doing so, she invited readers to connect with her not as an unattainable figure, but as a fellow traveler in the pursuit of meaning and self-realization. Yet, Michelle Obama's legacy is most enduring in its generational impact. Through mentorship programs, public speaking, and foundation activities, she invests in the next wave of leaders. Her work illustrates that efficacy is not measured solely by legislative outcomes, but by the seeds of inspiration sown in classrooms, community centers, and homes. She teaches that titles are transient, but values and influence endure. Her presence has shifted the cultural narrative around Black women in public life. Often contending with reductive stereotypes and hostility, she responded with poise, dignity, and clarity, becoming a role model for millions who see themselves reflected in her journey. By foregrounding issues of racial justice and inclusion, she has reshaped dialogues on representation in both politics and the arts. Ultimately, Michelle Obama's legacy is the embodiment of a progressive, pluralistic vision for leadership. She stands as testimony that true power lies in service, empathy, and relentless pursuit of justice. The ripple effects of her work visible in policy changes, grassroots movements, and individual lives will resonate long after her formal titles are resigned. In becoming more than a First Lady, Michelle Obama has carved a path for future leaders to follow, one where integrity and courage are the hallmarks of a meaningful legacy.